شعت شموس الهدي بالكلمات فأنارت الأفهام بالآيات أسرج بنور العلم عقلا.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Imam Ali alayhi salam said in his will to his sons Al-Hassan and Hussein alayhi salam, لا تتركوا الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر فيولي عليكم أشراركم ثم تدعون فلا يستجاب لكم. Do not ignore promoting virtue and preventing vice, as it will affect you and the evil will overtake. Everything in this world is subjected to every law and every system. Every particle on this earth is subjected to its own system and rule. Some systems are sensory, the way we feel things, the way we smell things. There are some things we cannot feel or smell. On the other hand, there's another system called the brain. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has done a vast research on the brain, the veins, the blood, the cells, the way we think, the way in which we act through the system of the brain. This research is compiled in a book for Al-Mufaddal ibn Umar in his book named At-Tawheed al-Mufaddal. In his research, he speaks about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a system in the human brain. When your right side of your brain works, it sends messages to your left side. And if the left side of your brain works, it sends messages to your right side. Perhaps researchers and scientists found out that if you are left-handed, it means that your right side of your brain is working. And if you are right-handed, that means your left side of your brain is working. This system is one of the systems that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created and placed it in the human brain. We cannot tell our brains to stop working or our hearts to stop pumping, because this system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed works by His permission, and we cannot control it. However, we can control other things, like for example promoting virtue and preventing vice. This is something that we can control. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, do not ignore promoting virtue and preventing vice, as it will affect you and the evil will overtake. If you become lazy in promoting virtue, then that means you're allowing the people who promote vice to overtake. This means that you'll end up with a government that is corrupted. You will have a corrupted authority controlling you. This is not what we want. You will end up with a corrupted generation because you stopped promoting virtue, and the people who are promoting vice continue to promote vice. Then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here for help, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not answer us because you left your duty in promoting virtue and preventing vice. Surely a kind of man who is an active member of society, if he then deviates, it will lead to others' deviations. Likewise, if one is guided, it will lead others to guidance. This is why the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, once gave an example of a story. He said one day that once a group of men were on a boat and they argued over seats. Everyone took a seat and sat, except one man. He disliked his seat. So what he did is he took an axe and he wanted to make a hole in his seat on the boat. The men around him asked him, what are you going to do? What are you doing? To which he replied, it's my seat and I can do whatever I want. If the people let him do what he wants, their life will be affected. If they grab the axe from him, they will save his life and their lives. Thus, this is how it is if one person promotes vice, will be affected. Thousands of people's life will be affected. A matter of fact, psychology has proven that society is like a weak body with a weak immune system. If we know that the body is weak, then the body can become affected with viruses much quicker than a body that has a strong immune system. The same applies when it comes to a society. If it's strong, it's less likely to become affected. Because promoting virtue will build the society to become less immune to vice. Thus, it is very important to promote virtue and to prevent vice. First, we start with ourselves, and then our family, and then our friends, and then our neighbors, and then the community around us. The best example we have in front of us is our prophets. They promoted virtue and prevented vice, even if it risked their lives. Then we have our scholars who did the same, and it's our responsibility as well to do the same. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam narrates that his grandfather, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said in one of his lectures, "How would you feel if your wife's astray?" The people around him said, "Why would we reach such a moment?" Then he asked them, he said, "How would you feel if one promotes vice and prevents virtue?" They asked him, "Why would we reach that moment?" And then the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "How would you feel if you see virtue vice and vice virtue?" And I believe we have reached those days. And it's because we are not promoting virtue and preventing vice. You find some people today who are seeking vice and not virtue. In another hadith, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, says, "My followers would remain in peace if they promote virtue and prevent vice." Allow me to give you an example of how to promote virtue and to prevent vice. It's mentioned in history that there was a dictator king who wanted people to eat pork. So he told his chef, "Go get me the scholar of the village and force him to eat pork in front of people. And if he refuses, kill him." Now the chef went to the scholar in that village and told him that the king wants me to bring you to his palace and force you to eat pork in front of people. And if you refuse, then you will get killed. So the chef promised the scholar that if he came to the palace and ate the food presented, he will make sure that the meat would not be pork, instead it will be lamb. But pretend that it's pork and eat it. The scholar agreed and came to the palace. Minutes after, the chef came and brought the meat, which was lamb, but everyone thought it was pork. And the scholar still refused to eat. The chef looked at the scholar and he whispered to him. He said, "I told you I'm going to cook lamb and not pork, so why aren't you eating?" The scholar answered him. He said, "I know that this is lamb and it's not pork, but if I eat, people around me who assume or know that this is pork will also start eating pork. And here, I would promote vice against virtue. So I would rather die." And he got killed. Therefore, the scholars, before years in history, they also sacrificed their life to promote virtue and not allow corruption to overtake us. And this is the kind of scholars we want. Imam Hussain alayhi salam is the best example of sacrifice. Imam Hussain alayhi salam sacrificed himself in order to promote virtue and prevent vice. Imam Hussain alayhi salam was clear with his words. When he left from Mecca, he said, "I have not risen to spread evil or to show off, nor for spreading immorality or oppression, but I have left for the reformation of my grandfather, Rasulullah, and I desire to invite you towards good values and forbidding evil. By Allah, I will never give you my hand like a man who has been humiliated, nor I will flee like a slave." As he began with the most difficult duty and the greatest obligation, no one in history has performed and sacrificed what Imam Hussain alayhi salam has. He sacrificed everything. Our prophets have sacrificed and endured a lot, but no messenger throughout history has sacrificed what Imam Hussain alayhi salam did, all in one day. He sacrificed his brothers, his children, his wives, his nephews, everything he had, even his infant, his companions, his soul, which is the greatest soul on earth. He sacrificed himself with a massacre. Did Imam Hussein alayhi salam want authority? Let those people listen and read, those who claim that Imam Hussein alayhi salam has left for the caliphate and the worldly desires. Those people who want to put doubt in Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Those people who want to put doubt in Imam Hussein alayhi salam's revolution. Imam Hussein alayhi salam clearly stated before he left Mecca, he said, a kind of death which I'm surely going to meet and which has been chosen for me. It is as if my joints chopped from my body, each part strewn across the desert of the Nawawis and Karbala, turned my shreds by desert foxes, which will fill their empty stomachs and starved bellies with my remains. Imam Hussein alayhi salam clearly stated that he is out for a sacrifice. He expected to become a martyr and not allow Yazid to promote vice over virtue. Thus he knew their intentions. The Umayyad had previously murdered his father Imam Ali alayhi salam and his brother Imam Hassan alayhi salam for the sake of caliphate. And lastly, if Imam Hussein alayhi salam wanted authority and the caliphate, then why would he go for a battle when he only had 70 companions versus Yazid had 30,000 companions and horsemen? Let's just assume that Hussein alayhi salam's intention was to take the homage and the caliphate from Yazid. Asking for the caliphate is not a bad thing, especially if he was taking the caliph from an unjust ruler, an alcoholic, a killer, a man who does not deserve the caliphate, a man who does not follow Islam in its proper state. He does not promote virtue and does not prevent vice. So here it becomes obligatory for Imam Hussein alayhi salam to fight for the caliphate, or unless Yazid would lead people to vice and corruption. Likewise, Imam Ali alayhi salam fought for the caliphate for 25 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And he said it clearly when he said, "Oh, I swear by God, I wanted to make life easier for you, but you rejected." And he also said in another narration or in another speech, "Oh Allah, you are aware of my intentions. I have not asked for authority because I am indeed in need of it. Oh Allah, I have not asked for authority because I'm in need of it. I have not asked the caliphate because I worthy desire it. However, I wanted to seek and promote virtue and prevent vice. The Islam of my grandfather Rasulullah, peace and blessings be upon him." Likewise, Imam Ali alayhi salam asked for his rights in all forms and places. He took Fatima to Zahra alayhi salam and his two sons Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein, and he started to preach and remind people of the Holy Quran and remind people of the Holy Prophet and what the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, taught. And Imam knew he would not receive the caliphate, but he continued for 40 nights to do so. He even asked for the Khilafah, for the Caliphate, when he entered the Majlis al-Shura and he debated with Umar and the five of his companions. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, he knew he would not receive it. Therefore, if Imam Ali alayhi salam asked for the Caliphate and the authority, why wouldn't Imam Hussein? Prophet Sulaiman asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for authority when he said, "Rabbi ighfir li wa hab li mulkan la yanbaghi li ahadan min ba'di innaka anta al-wahhab." He said, "My Lord, forgive me and grant me a kingdom such as will not belong to anyone after me. Indeed, you are the bestower." Prophet Ibrahim asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him authority for his children. The Holy Quran says, إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال أحد الظالمين. And remember when his Lord tried Ibrahim with certain words and then he fulfilled them, he said, surely I am going to make you an imam for men. By all means, what prevents Imam Hussein alayhi salam from not asking for the caliphate and the authority? Doesn't he not deserve it? He is the most justice and equal imam of his times. He is the perfect example of his grandfather Rasulullah, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Imam Hussein alayhi salam had to ask for his rights and he had to ask for authority, or else people would say that he was unable to do his duty and he did not do his role or run after his right that was taken away from him. Or people would say that the Imam Hussein alayhi salam is weak and he feared Yazid. Therefore, Imam Hussein alayhi salam asked for his right and he educated the people of Kufa and Medina and everywhere that he went. The Imam tried to propagate the message after his father and his brother and his grandfather. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was in Hajj doing tawaf. And when he received the news that Yazid sent a group of his men to find Hussein and kill him and slaughter him, Imam left Hajj. He made a small umrah and he left. One man came to him and asked him, why are you not performing your duties, Hajj? The Imam replied to him. The Imam said, how dare you say that? And my wealth was stolen and I was patient. They swore on my family and I was patient. They wanted to shed my blood and I escaped. I swear by God, they will kill me, but they will live a life of terror and humiliation. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam was about to depart to Iraq, his brother Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah came to him, approached him. When he heard that bad news, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam would be heading towards Kufa, and previously his father Ali ibn Abi Talib had been martyred in Kufa, and his brother Hassan alayhi salam had been betrayed by the people of Kufa. Here he came to his brother Imam Hussein and he said to him, he approached him and he said to him, O brother Hussein, you are leaving to Kufa. Have you not known that the people of Kufa have betrayed your father Ali and they have betrayed your brother Hassan? And I'm afraid that they will betray you and they will do the same. Imam Hussein alayhi salam answered him and he said, if I stay in Mecca, my blood would be shed by Yazid and his companions, and I do not want my blood to be shed at Allah's house. Here Muhammad came up with an idea and he said to him, oh brother Hussein, I have an idea for you. Why don't you go somewhere else? Go to Yemen. The Imam said, I will think about that. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam woke up the next morning and he was about to departure, Muhammad came to him and he said to him, oh Hussein, did you not think about what I said to you yesterday? The Imam told him, yes, I did. But I saw my grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. He said to me in my dreams, continue your way to Iraq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to see you a martyr. Thus Imam Hussein alayhi salam knew what was awaiting him in Iraq. A narration from Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam, he said that when we traveled with my father Hussein to Iraq, every break he had, every place we had rested, my father Hussein mentioned Yahya, the son of Zakaria. He said one day the head of Zakaria was slaughtered and given to Bani Israel. Yes, my dear viewers, the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was slaughtered and gifted to Bani Umayyah. Every piece of his body was slaughtered and chopped into pieces. His front teeth were broken from the rock that hit his forehead. His little pinky was chopped off. When the murderer Shimr killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam and cut off his head, Umayyah's army robbed Imam's clothing and his sword and his turban and took everything that the Imam had on him. One man named Bajdal, the son of Salim, may Allah curse him, saw a ring on Imam Hussein alayhi salam's pinky, his little finger. And he wanted the ring, but he could not remove it because his body and his hands were swollen. So what he did is he chopped off crucially the finger of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, just to take off the ring off a headless body. By all means, Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed himself to promote virtue and prevent vice. And it is our duty to do the same and to follow his teachings. Because we have young children, and these young children and this young upcoming generation needs to have a good role models in order for them to be raised. They need to have a strong base by promoting virtue and the love of Ahlul Bayt, and hating the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, and understanding and knowing and accepting the halal and forbidding the haram. We have superstars, celebrities, and sportsmen who have generally projected in the media, who get fame, and who are generally not good humans character-wise. Indeed, they are good philanthropists, but they are not good characters. And they are often caught drunk in affairs and doing so on and so forth and doing evil things. Those evil things, when are presented in a various glamorous way, established with spicy media gossip, it makes it even more attractive. With that, today's media is not just gossiping around to take competitive advantage, but also promoting wrong family values and modeling unethical and moral behavior for our children. The movies and TV series badly exploit women and project very abusive language. Many parents complain that their daughters would want to imitate some of those today's trendy appearances and behaviors, and that their sons adopt to the hairstyle of clothing and trendy people like David Beckham or Brad Pitt, while children do indeed look to the media for role models. And thus, this is true that we cannot stop them from external environments. We cannot stop them from internet and television and so on and so forth. Perhaps still parents have tremendous amount of influence in their children's lives. It is imperative that parents should have positive, pro-social models that lead by example so that their children would learn to be religious, learn to read the Quran, learn the Islamic values while nurturing, loving as they grow up. It's important for young parents to promote virtue and prevent vice so that our children can follow our footsteps and differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is our school, whether people accept it or not. If you teach your son or daughter the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or just narrate the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that itself is promoting virtue and preventing vice. Because Hussein alayhi salam is the salah, he is the fasting, he is the siyam, he is the halal, he is the haram. How? Once you read to your child the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the first question your child will ask you is, why was he killed? He was killed for salah. What is salah? You're promoting salah to your child. He was killed because he promoted the halal and prevented the haram. What is the halal? What is the haram? Because Yazid was drinking. What is drinking? Drinking is haram. Pork is haram. Then here you're promoting to your child what Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his message was obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Allah wants us to obey Him. Your child will then start to ask you questions, and by answering your child's questions, you are teaching them the Quran itself, you are teaching them the halal, you are teaching them the haram. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the Quran al-Natiq, the spoken Quran. In a busy world where evil is becoming much more attractive and easy to adopt, children may grow up physically, but they need spiritual growth and realization that evil is something wrong and that should be hated, and that the haram is being something normal, and children should be raised on the haram, it's forbidden, and that shouldn't be taught the Islamic values at a very young age, and the Islamic laws should be introduced to our very young children. Parents thus show their children honesty, courage, mercy, love, tolerance. They should promote salah to their children, promote by reading Quran. This is something which we owe to our children. It might be difficult, but with practice, you'll be an expert. Children look up to their parents with love and trust, and at least in the first formative years of their life, they try to follow closely and set example by parents. To increase your influence as a parent and decrease the influence of the celebrities, you need to limit the amount of time kids spend by watching television and playing video games. You should provide them with alternatives and should provide them and encourage them and engage them in physical activities. And this is why every year we commemorate the anniversary and the martyrdom of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, to remind ourselves and to remind our young upcoming generations, our children, by taking our kids to majalis. The ladies that hear me, those children who come to the majalis, to the lectures, and they run and they giggle in the mosques and they play, allow them. They are young, they are innocent. They play in the house of Imam Hussein today, and tomorrow, once they grow, they will serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Do not yell at them. Do not punish them for making loud noises. I've seen with my own eyes ladies that they yell at the mother and they make her feel guilty for bringing her children to Imam Hussain alayhi salam's majalis. Because maybe the child cried, or maybe the child is running and distracting the elderlies. While listening, my message to all those ladies and gentlemen out there who hear my voice, we need our children to be brought up in such places. Even if they do not listen today and sit and listen to the majalis, the environment itself is enough for nourishing their souls. To all the group organizers who hear me, think of our children before of thinking of our youth. Because if we establish our children at a very young age, we will not struggle once they are youth. Provide our children with rooms to color and draw. Draw their imaginations of Karbala. Allow them to watch some short animated cartoon stories of Karbala. I've been very amazed with many authors, young authors, who are from the believers of Ahlul Bayt, who illustrated children's books. And this is what we need. They illustrated children's books about Karbala. They promoted the Hajj, the Salah, and so on and so forth. Many authors, and I'm very pleased. And this is exactly what we need. Allow our children to mix with a wonderful environment that teaches them and reminds them of Imam Hussain alayhi salam and the tragedy of Karbala. This is our duty and our responsibility, and it's everyone's responsibility, even those who do not have children. Let's start with our children and focus on our youth and welcome our young adults. It's our responsibility to step back and allow our young adults to take roles in these majalis, to participate, to lead. Do not say you're too young or you're too small or you're not good enough. Encourage them. Allow them. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and rescue our children and our upcoming generation. And inshallah, we keep in mind that as long as we live on this earth, we promote virtue and prevent vice. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.